So for this project, I'm using a rock that I made from a mold from the Happy Dotting Company, white acrylic paint, white gel nail polish, nail pigment powders, a UV or LED light, and resin is optional. All supplies will be linked in the description below. So let's get started. So first off, I'm using a rock that broke, and I glued it back together and then applied a layer of resin to repair it. But I'm not going to be selling this rock. This is just for practice. So since it has a layer of resin on it, I'm using a 220 sanding block just to rough up the resin so that my paint will adhere to it. Now that my rock is completely sanded, I'm taking a paper towel and spraying water onto the paper towel, and I'm going to wipe down my rock to remove any of the sanding dust. Once that is done, I'm going to take 99% alcohol and again wipe my rock down to remove any oils from my hands. Now that my rock is all clean, I'm going to paint the whole rock white. This may take you several coats. Now that my base coat has been applied and is fully dried, I'm going to add white gel nail polish to the whole surface of the rock. Once the surface of the rock has been covered with the gel nail polish, I'm going to cure it for 1 minute with the UV lamp. Now that my polish is fully cured, but is still sticky to the touch, you do not want to wipe it off with alcohol. You want it to be slightly sticky to the touch. I'm taking my nail pigment powders. I've chosen 3 colors in purple, pink, and orange, and these are all of the fluorescent colors. They don't show up that well on the video, but they are all extremely bright fluorescent colors. But you can pick whatever colors you would like. So now I'm taking a round paintbrush and I'm dabbing into the purple, and I'm just going to be dabbing this powder on in various areas of the rock. This is going to be the center of my roses. So I want to make sure my spacing accommodates for the size of the roses I'm going to be making. And there is a lot of fallout from the powder. Don't worry about that. Just leave that on the rock for now. Now that I have all the purple dots on my rock and my brush has been cleaned by just scrubbing it on my paper towel, I'm taking the pink powder and I'm going around each one of the purple dots. And again, I'm just dabbing this on and leaving the fallout. Now you do want to kind of blend the edges where the purple and the pink meet, but just slightly. You don't want to cover up your purple. You can see how if you just dab into the purple slightly with the bristles of the brush, it will soften it to where there's a nice transition between the purple and the pink. And again, we are leaving the fallout pigment where it sits. So we're going to do that to all of the purple dots. Now you want to clean the pink out of your paintbrush, and we're going to be going into the orange and doing the exact same thing, but this time we're going to fill up any of the gaps. We don't want to see any white on the rock. So we're just going to dab the orange all over the rock, making sure to get down around the sides as well. And again, just leave any of the fallout, the excess pigment, just leave it where it sits. We're going to deal with that in the next step. Now that the whole rock has been colored with the pigment, now you can take your brush and wipe off the excess pigment. You can either use your paintbrush or a different brush, but now the excess can all be removed now that there is no more white pigment showing on your rock. So now I'm taking, this is a nail brush. The link to it will be in the description below. It comes in a set of 4 or 5. I'm using the gold one. I really like this brush for this technique. And then I'm taking, again, the white gel nail polish, and I'm just going to take and wipe some onto my paint palette. This is my glass paint palette. I'm removing any debris on any like dust or microparticles or whatever. I'm just cleaning it with alcohol first. Then I'm going to just dab some of the gel nail polish onto my palette, and I'm going to be using that to paint from. So now I'm taking just a little dab of the white gel nail polish, and in one of the purple circles I start off with a C, kind of a C stroke. Make a C. You see I'm using very little paint, and then I add a tail to it, kind of turning the C into an E. And that's going to be the start of the center of your rose. And then I stroke another kind of jagged line around where the opening to the E is. And I make these, usually they're kind of like a wide U, and I taper the tails, and then I will go in on the other side and do kind of the same thing. I like for the center of my U to be a little thicker, and then I taper off the tails. And then in the gap between those two, I add another petal using the same technique, kind of a U with tapered tails. And you're just going to do this all the way around each of the circles. that you created with the pigment. And I'll show you a couple of these at regular speed, and then I'll speed this all up when we get to the, because I'm going to cover the whole rock with these roses. Now anywhere where you have kind of a larger gap between the petals, just widen the petal itself out and fill in that gap, like I had done with this previous petal. Now I was trying this technique, that's why I went ahead and used a broken rock. One thing I learned is that if you want the pigment to show up better in the end, you want to make sure that your petal, the paint on your petals is not really thick. The thinner it is, the better the color will show up underneath it. I did not know that until after I was done. So I made some of my petals were a little thicker, so, which is not necessary. The thinner they are, the better the pigment's going to show up. So you see how I'm just going around, and anywhere where there's kind of a large gap between the petals, I just extend out the petal, just thicken the middle of the petal out. And that closes in that gap. And then once you have that flower made, and you want some flowers to be small and some of them to be thicker. So again, I'm starting with my C. I'm adding a tail to it, which turns it into an E. And then I draw a petal. This time I'm starting on this side. It doesn't really matter. If you're new, I would start at where the gap is, like I did in the first flower. But after a while, you kind of get the hang of how the sequence of petals goes. I'm sorry, I'm covering up the camera with my paintbrush. I'm still a little under the weather, but I am getting over. I have a bronchial infection, so I am finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And just wherever your gaps are, that's kind of where you're going to add a new petal. And you can overlap. There's really no way to screw this up. They're so simple. And each one looks a little bit different, which is what you want. Just remember to make the center of your kind of your U shape thicker and taper your ends down. And it creates a petal. So now I'm going to go ahead and speed this up because we have a lot more flowers to make. Now that I have painted in all of the flowers on my rock, and you can see I have some that are large and some that are smaller. You want that variety. Now that they're all done, I'm going to take my UV lamp and I'm going to cure the rock for 1 minute. Now that my polish is all cured, I'm taking a paper towel that has alcohol, 99% alcohol on it, and I'm wiping off all of the pigment powder. And so this takes just a little bit of elbow grease to get it all off. And what you're going to be left with is just the pigment powder showing through underneath the gel polish. So you get a very subtle colored rose. So here's the finished product. This rock has a lot of steps, but it's super easy and a lot of fun. I hope you'll give it a try. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. If you're interested in purchasing one of my rocks, unfortunately this one was just a practice and won't be available, but I do have a lot more available in my Etsy shop. The link is in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe and make sure to share with all of your friends. And don't forget to hit that notification bell so you're notified the next time I upload a video. I do upload videos once a week on Monday or Wednesday. Thank you so much for subscribing, and I'll see you in the next video.